The wedding hall fell silent. The millionaire bride, with a cruel smile, pointed to the pregnant maid in the corner of the room. "For our next song," she announced to hundreds of guests, "my maid, Emma, will be giving us a special performance." Her face pale with dread, Emma was forced onto the stage. What she didn't know was that her public humiliation was about to become her boss's ruin and the beginning of her greatest dream. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. "Just because you work here doesn't mean I have to look at you," Vanessa said, her voice cold as she walked past Emma in the hallway. "Try to stay out of my sight today." Emma Wilson lowered her eyes and stepped to the side, one hand instinctively moving to her rounded belly. At 6 months pregnant, she found it harder each day to make herself invisible in the sprawling Westwood mansion. "Yes, Miss Clark," she said quietly. As Vanessa's footsteps faded down the marble corridor, Emma took a deep breath and continued pushing her cleaning cart. The morning sunlight streamed through tall windows, highlighting dust particles in the air, particles she would need to eliminate before Vanessa returned. At 28 years old, Emma had never planned to be a live-in maid. Her dreams had once centered around Nashville's music scene, not scrubbing toilets in a Los Angeles mansion. But life had other plans when Jake Miller, a smooth-talking musician she'd dated briefly, disappeared after learning she was pregnant with his child. "Emma, there you are," called a friendly voice from behind her. Antonio Diaz, the head chef, walked toward her with a warm smile. His white uniform was spotless, just like everything else he managed in the kitchen. "I made extra breakfast. You need to eat more," he said, handing her a plate with toast, eggs, and fruit. "Thank you, Antonio. You didn't have to do that." "Of course I did. You're eating for 2 now." He nodded toward her belly. "How are you feeling today?" "Tired," Emma admitted. "But fine, just 2 more days until the wedding, then things might calm down." Antonio's smile faded slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe the new Mrs. Bennett will be even more demanding." They both knew this was likely true. Richard Bennett, their 40-year-old employer and tech millionaire, was marrying Vanessa Clark, a former model from a prominent New York family. While Richard treated the staff with respect, Vanessa viewed them as furniture that occasionally moved. "I better finish the East Wing before she comes back," Emma said, taking a quick bite of toast. "Take care of yourself," Antonio called as she walked away. "That baby needs a strong mama." Emma spent the morning dusting and vacuuming the mansion's East Wing, where several guest rooms were being prepared for out-of-town wedding guests. Her back ached, but she pushed through it, knowing the overtime pay would help buy the crib her baby would need. As she cleaned the third guest bathroom, she heard Vanessa's voice from a nearby room. Emma slowed her movements, trying to work quietly. "No, Julia. I said white roses in that room, not pink. Are you trying to ruin everything?" Emma recognized the second voice as Julia Torres, the wedding planner who had been rushing in and out of the mansion for weeks. "I'm sorry, Miss Clark. The florist must have—" "I don't care about excuses. Fix it. This wedding cost $2 million. It needs to be perfect." Emma winced at Vanessa's tone. She felt sorry for Julia, who seemed to be doing her best to manage the elaborate event. After finishing the bathroom, Emma moved to the hallway. As she bent down to pick up a fallen towel, she felt a sharp pain in her back. She straightened slowly, placing one hand on the wall for support. "Are you okay?" The deep male voice startled her. Richard Bennett stood a few feet away, his expression concerned. Unlike Vanessa, Richard always noticed when someone was struggling. "Yes, Mr. Bennett. Just a little back pain. Nothing to worry about." Richard frowned. "You should take breaks when you need them, Emma. Your health comes first." "Thank you, sir. I will." He hesitated, as if wanting to say more, then nodded and continued down the hallway. Emma watched him go, grateful for his kindness. With his salt and pepper hair and glasses, Richard looked every bit the successful businessman he was. He had made his fortune developing security software, building his company from nothing. During her lunch break, Emma sat in the staff area and called her doctor. "Your appointment is confirmed for next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, the receptionist told her. "Dr. Williams wants to do another ultrasound." "Thank you. I'll be there," Emma said, making a note in her phone calendar. After lunch, Emma noticed increased activity throughout the mansion. Florists arrived with more flowers, caterers discussed final menu details with Antonio, and Vanessa's voice could be heard directing everyone from room to room. As Emma cleaned windows in the main living room, she heard the front door open and a warm, elegant voice call out, "Hello? Anyone home?" Margaret Bennett, Richard's mother, entered the room carrying a small suitcase. Her gray hair was styled perfectly, and she wore a simple but expensive blue dress. "Emma, dear! How wonderful to see you," Margaret said, smiling genuinely. "How are you feeling? The baby must be getting quite active now." "Yes, Mrs. Bennett, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep," Emma replied, returning the smile. Unlike Vanessa, Margaret had always treated Emma with kindness and respect. She seemed to recognize that circumstances, not lack of ability, had led Emma to this job. "Mother, you're early," Richard said, entering the room and embracing Margaret. "I wanted to help with last-minute details," Margaret explained, "and make sure you're not having cold feet." Something flickered across Richard's face. So briefly, Emma thought she imagined it, before he smiled. "No cold feet here." Later that afternoon, Emma worked in Richard's study, dusting bookshelves filled with technology books and business biographies. The room felt peaceful compared to the wedding chaos in the rest of the house. Without thinking, she began to hum softly, a habit from her days performing in Nashville cafes. The song was one she had written during her darkest days after Jake left, about rising from life's hardest moments. Lost in the melody, Emma didn't notice Richard enter the room. He stood quietly in the doorway, listening, his expression thoughtful. When she turned and saw him, she jumped slightly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. I didn't hear you come in. Please don't apologize," he said. "You have a beautiful voice, Emma." Emma felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. I used to sing a lot before." She gestured vaguely to her current situation. "You should sing more," Richard said. "Talent like that shouldn't be hidden." Neither of them noticed Vanessa standing in the hallway watching their interaction with narrowed eyes. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into her palms as she observed the way Richard smiled at Emma. "Richard!" Vanessa called sharply, making both of them turn. "Your tuxedo arrived. You need to try it on immediately." "Of course," Richard said. "Thank you again for your hard work, Emma." As he left with Vanessa, Emma returned to dusting, unaware that her simple act of humming had planted a dangerous seed in Vanessa's mind. That evening, as the staff prepared dinner, Emma helped Antonio plate the appetizers. "2 more days of this wedding madness," Antonio said quietly. "Then we can breathe again." "I hope so," Emma replied. "I need to start saving more for when the baby comes." Antonio nodded toward the dining room where they could hear Vanessa discussing seating arrangements. "Be careful around her, Emma. I don't like the way she looks at you." "What do you mean?" "Like you're a problem she wants to solve," Antonio said. "Just watch your back." As Emma carried water glasses to the dining room, she overheard Vanessa on the phone in the hallway. "Don't worry about the singer situation. I think I've found the perfect solution to multiple problems at once." Emma continued walking, the words not registering as important. She had no way of knowing that Vanessa's perfect solution would soon change her life forever. Emma couldn't shake Vanessa's words from her mind as she prepared for the rehearsal dinner at the Brentwood Country Club. While laying out the freshly pressed tablecloths, she kept thinking about the singer situation Vanessa had mentioned on the phone. The country club sparkled with lights as staff rushed to prepare for the event. Emma helped the catering team set up trays of appetizers, her pregnant belly making the work more difficult than usual. "You should sit down for a minute," said one of the waiters, noticing Emma wince as she placed a tray down. "I can't. There's too much to do," Emma replied, rubbing her lower back. Across the room, Vanessa greeted early arrivals in a sleek blue dress, her smile perfect as she introduced herself to Richard's business associates. She looked every bit the beautiful bride-to-be, giving no hint of the coldness Emma knew so well. "Emma, could you fix the flower arrangement on table 3? It's crooked," Julia Torres, the wedding planner, asked as she rushed past with a clipboard. Emma nodded and moved to the table. As she adjusted the flowers, she saw Richard introducing an elderly woman to other guests. "This is my Aunt Helen," Richard said warmly. "She came all the way from Boston for the wedding." When Richard spotted Emma, he walked over with his aunt. "Aunt Helen, this is Emma Wilson, the person who keeps our home running smoothly," Richard said with genuine appreciation. "It's nice to meet you," Emma said politely. "Richard tells me you're expecting. When is the baby due?" Helen asked kindly. "In about 3 months," Emma replied, surprised by the woman's interest. "Well, make sure you're taking care of yourself, dear." Richard smiled at the exchange before Vanessa appeared at his side, linking her arm through his. "Richard, the Johnsons just arrived. We should greet them," Vanessa said, pulling him away without acknowledging Emma or Helen. The rehearsal dinner began at 7 o'clock. Emma worked in the background helping the staff serve the 5-course meal. From her position near the kitchen doors, she could see Richard at the head table with Vanessa, their engagement ring sparkling under the chandelier lights. Halfway through the main course, Julia's phone rang. She stepped away from the tables to answer it, and Emma noticed the wedding planner's face fall as she listened. When Julia hung up, she immediately rushed to Vanessa's side and whispered in her ear, "What do you mean she has laryngitis?" Vanessa's voice rose above the dinner conversation. "The wedding is in 2 days." Guests turned to look as Vanessa's perfect composure cracked slightly. "I'm sorry, Miss Clark, she called from the doctor's office. She can't speak, let alone sing," Julia explained. "This is a disaster," Vanessa said. "What are we supposed to do about our first dance? The song was specifically arranged for her voice." Richard placed his hand over Vanessa's. "It's okay. We can use a recording instead." "It's not the same," Vanessa insisted. Margaret Bennett, who sat on Richard's other side, leaned forward. "You know, I remember hearing someone with a lovely voice at your house recently." "Who?" Richard asked. "Your maid, Emma. I heard her singing in the garden one morning while she was hanging laundry. She has a beautiful voice." Emma, who was replacing water glasses nearby, froze at the mention of her name. Vanessa's expression shifted from annoyance to something calculated. "Emma? Our Emma?" "Yes," Margaret continued. "It was quite impressive, very natural talent." Vanessa's eyes found Emma across the room, and a slow smile spread across her face. "How interesting. I had no idea." After dinner, Emma noticed Vanessa pull Julia aside into a small alcove off the main dining room. Their conversation seemed intense, with Vanessa doing most of the talking and Julia repeatedly shaking her head. "I don't think that's a good idea," Julia said, loud enough for Emma to hear as she cleared plates from a nearby table. "I'm not asking for your opinion," Vanessa replied. "Just make it happen." When Julia walked away, her face showed clear discomfort. She caught Emma's eye briefly before looking away quickly. Michael Reed, Richard's best friend and business partner, approached Emma as she worked. "You're Emma, right?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir." "How are you feeling? Should you be on your feet this much?" Emma was surprised by his concern. "I'm fine. I need the hours." Michael nodded, then lowered his voice. "Be careful around Vanessa. Something doesn't seem right." Before Emma could respond, Michael moved away, heading toward Richard, who stood talking with other guests. From across the room, Emma watched Michael speak to Richard, their conversation appearing serious. Richard shook his head and clapped Michael on the shoulder with a smile, as if dismissing whatever concern had been raised. Later that night, back at the mansion, Emma counted her tips from the evening. The extra money would help with the baby expenses, but she was still far from affording the crib she had seen at the store. 6 more shifts like tonight, she calculated aloud in her small room. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Antonio stood there with a plate of leftover dessert. "You missed the chocolate cake," he said, handing her the plate. "It's good." "Thanks, Antonio." Emma took the plate gratefully. Antonio didn't leave. Instead, he stepped into her room and closed the door partially. "I saw Vanessa talking with her bridesmaids tonight," he said. "They were looking at you and laughing. I don't like it." Emma sighed. "She probably just thinks it's funny that a pregnant maid works for her." "No, it was more than that. They kept saying something about the special surprise for the wedding and looking in your direction. Be careful, Emma." Emma thought about Vanessa's phone call and her reaction to Margaret's comment about Emma's singing. "Do you think it has something to do with the wedding singer getting sick?" Emma asked. Antonio's eyes widened slightly. "What do you mean?" "Richard's mother mentioned she heard me singing once, and Vanessa got this strange look on her face." "That doesn't sound good," Antonio said. "Vanessa doesn't do nice things for people like us. Whatever she's planning, it's not to help you." Emma nodded, remembering Michael's warning as well. "I'll be careful." The next morning, Emma was cleaning the breakfast dishes when Vanessa entered the kitchen. It was unusual to see her there, as she typically avoided the staff areas. "Good morning, Emma," Vanessa said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Ms. Clark," Emma replied cautiously. Vanessa leaned against the counter. "I hear you have a beautiful voice." Emma nearly dropped the plate she was washing. I used to sing a little." How modest. Vanessa studied her. "You know, our wedding singer has fallen ill. Such bad timing." "I heard. I'm sorry about that." "Well, these things happen." Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. "I was thinking perhaps you could help us out if needed." Emma turned to face Vanessa fully, surprised by the request. "Me? Sing at your wedding?" "Just as a backup plan, of course. We're trying to find a professional replacement, but on such short notice." Vanessa let the sentence hang in the air. "I don't know, Ms. Clark. I haven't performed in a long time. But you could if needed, right? It would mean so much to Richard. He's been so kind to you during your situation." Vanessa glanced at Emma's pregnant belly. Emma felt conflicted. Richard had indeed been kind to her, and if she could repay that kindness somehow. "I suppose I could, if you really need help," Emma said hesitantly. "Wonderful." Vanessa's smile broadened. "Let's hope we find a replacement and don't need to bother you, but it's good to know we have a backup plan." After Vanessa left, Emma called her friend Sarah from Nashville. "She asked me to possibly sing at her wedding," Emma explained. "It seems strange. She's never been nice to me before." "Maybe she's finally seeing you as a person instead of just the help," Sarah suggested. "Maybe," Emma replied, though she didn't believe it. "It might be a good opportunity, though. If I did well, maybe Richard would recommend me to some of his music industry friends." "Just be careful," Sarah warned. "It seems too convenient that their singer got sick right after Richard's mom mentioned your voice." Throughout the day, Emma noticed Julia giving her strange glances whenever they passed in the hallways. Once, she caught Vanessa whispering with her bridesmaids, all of them looking in Emma's direction before laughing. As final wedding preparations continued, Emma felt increasingly uneasy. But a small part of her wondered if this might be a chance to sing again, to be seen as more than just a pregnant maid. That evening, as she helped prepare guest rooms for out-of-town arrivals, Emma overheard Vanessa speaking to Julia in the hallway. "Everything is arranged just as we discussed," Vanessa said. "Tomorrow will be unforgettable for everyone." When Julia walked away, Emma noticed the wedding planner's troubled expression. Their eyes met briefly, and Julia's look of pity sent a chill through Emma. Something was wrong, very wrong, but by tomorrow it would be too late to stop whatever Vanessa had planned. Emma tossed and turned all night, troubled by the look of pity on Julia's face. When her alarm clock showed 5 o'clock in the morning, she gave up on sleep and rose to prepare for the wedding day. The baby kicked as Emma dressed in her uniform, a simple black dress with a white apron that barely fit over her pregnant belly. "Today's going to be a long day for both of us," Emma whispered, placing her hand on her stomach. By 6 o'clock, the Brentwood Country Club was already buzzing with activity. Florists carried arrangements of white roses through the grand entrance. Catering staff wheeled in carts loaded with food. Photographers tested lighting throughout the venue. Emma joined the kitchen staff, helping to unpack serving dishes and arrange silverware. Her back ached with every movement, but she focused on the overtime pay. With each hour worked, she was closer to affording the crib her baby would need. "You shouldn't be carrying those," Antonio said, quickly taking a stack of plates from Emma's hands. "Here, I made a place for you." He led her to a small corner of the kitchen where he'd placed a chair and a small table. "You can fold these napkins sitting down," he explained. "No one will know the difference, and your back will thank you." Emma smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Antonio." $200 for today's work, right?" he asked. $250 if I stay through cleanup," Emma replied. "That's almost half the cost of the crib." Around 10 o'clock, Richard appeared in the kitchen doorway. He wore casual clothes, looking nothing like a man who would be married in a few hours. His eyes scanned the room until they found Emma. "Good morning," he said, approaching her corner. "How are you feeling today?" "I'm fine, Mr. Bennett," Emma replied, continuing to fold napkins. Richard frowned. "You look tired. Are you sure you should be working? It's a lot of hours on your feet." "I need the money," Emma said simply. Richard nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Well, take breaks when you can, and if you need to leave early, that's okay." As he turned to go, Emma called after him, "Aren't you supposed to be getting ready?" Richard paused. "Yes, I suppose I am." He gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. Big day. Emma watched him leave, wondering at his lack of enthusiasm on his wedding day. By noon, the pace of activity had increased dramatically. Vanessa arrived with her 6 bridesmaids immediately taking over the bridal suite. Her voice echoed down the hallway as she inspected every detail. "These flowers are the wrong shade of white," she shouted at a trembling florist. "They look cheap. Fix this now." Emma avoided the bridal suite, instead helping to prepare the reception area. The ballroom had been transformed with white flowers, crystal chandeliers, and tables set with fine china. A stage for the band stood at one end, where musicians were setting up their equipment. At 1 o'clock, Emma spotted Michael Reed standing alone on the balcony overlooking the ocean. She walked past with a tray of glasses, trying to be invisible. "He doesn't want to go through with it, you know," Michael said suddenly, causing Emma to stop. "Excuse me?" she asked. Michael turned to face her. "Richard, he's having doubts. Has been for weeks." Emma shook her head. "I shouldn't be hearing this, Mr. Reed." "Probably not," Michael agreed, "but sometimes an outsider sees things more clearly than those involved." Before Emma could respond, Julia Torres rushed onto the balcony. "There you are," she said to Michael. "The photographer needs the best man for pictures." As Michael left, Julia's eyes met Emma's briefly. Again, Emma saw that flash of pity, strengthening her sense of unease. By 3 o'clock, guests began arriving in expensive cars. Women in designer dresses and men in tailored suits entered the venue, greeted by staff offering champagne. Emma retreated further into the background, serving when needed but trying to stay out of sight. During a rare moment of rest in Antonio's kitchen corner, Emma called her mother. "How's the wedding?" her mother asked. "Expensive," Emma replied. "Everything costs more than our house." "And how are you feeling, honey? Is the baby moving a lot?" "Yes, especially when I'm trying to rest. I think she'll be a dancer." Her mother laughed. "Just like her mama used to be. I still have videos of you dancing around the living room." After the call, Emma returned to work. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock, and the staff worked frantically to ensure everything was perfect. Emma watched from a side door as the ceremony began. Richard stood at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo but looking strangely detached. When Vanessa appeared in her designer gown that likely cost more than Emma would earn in a year, the guests gasped in appreciation. The ceremony was brief. Within 30 minutes, Richard and Vanessa were pronounced husband and wife. The crowd applauded as they walked back down the aisle together, Vanessa beaming while Richard smiled politely. As the reception began, Emma's workload increased. She moved between tables, serving drinks and clearing plates. Her feet and back screamed in protest, but she pushed through the pain. During dinner, a young woman performed several songs with the band. She was the replacement singer, her voice pleasant but nothing special. Emma noticed Vanessa watching the singer with a dissatisfied expression. Margaret Bennett, seated at the head table, caught Emma's eye and gestured for her to come closer. "You should sit down for a while," Margaret said kindly. "You look exhausted." "I'm fine, Mrs. Bennett," Emma insisted. "At least take short breaks," Margaret advised. "That baby is more important than perfect service." As Emma walked away, she passed Michael, who was watching Vanessa whisper with her bridesmaids. Their eyes followed Emma, and the women giggled behind their hands. By 8 o'clock, dinner was finished, and the band announced it was time for the first dance. Richard led Vanessa to the center of the ballroom as guests gathered around to watch. But before the music started, Vanessa spoke urgently to Julia, who then rushed to speak with the band. The musicians looked confused, shaking their heads. Vanessa's expression darkened momentarily before she plastered on a smile and hurried toward the kitchen where Emma was stacking dirty plates. "Emma!" Vanessa called, her voice higher than usual. "Thank goodness you're here. We have an emergency." Emma looked up, surprised. "What's wrong?" "The singer," Vanessa said, placing her hand on Emma's arm. "She doesn't know our first dance song. There's been a terrible miscommunication." "I'm sorry to hear that," Emma replied cautiously. "I need your help," Vanessa continued, her eyes wide and pleading. "Mother Bennett mentioned you have a beautiful voice. Could you possibly sing for our first dance? It would mean so much to Richard." Emma froze, alarm bells ringing in her mind. "I don't know the song either." "It's a simple ballad," Vanessa insisted. "The band knows it. You just need to sing the words." She pulled a sheet of paper from a hidden pocket in her dress. "Here are the lyrics." Emma looked at the paper, then at Antonio, who stood nearby with a warning in his eyes. "I don't think I can," Emma said. "I haven't performed in years." "Please," Vanessa pressed. "Richard has been so kind to you. This would be a way to thank him." Emma hesitated. Richard had indeed been kind, offering her a job when she desperately needed one, adjusting her duties as her pregnancy progressed. "Just one song?" Emma asked. "Just one," Vanessa confirmed, her smile growing. "Julia will take you to the stage. You'll have 5 minutes to look at the lyrics." Before Emma could reconsider, Julia appeared at her side. "Come with me," the wedding planner said softly. As Julia led Emma through back corridors toward the ballroom, Emma studied the lyrics. The song was unfamiliar, about eternal love and commitment. Simple enough, but something still felt wrong. "Will I have time to practice with the band?" Emma asked. Julia didn't answer. "Is there a microphone set up for me?" Emma tried again. "It will be fine," Julia said, not meeting Emma's eyes. They approached the ballroom, and Emma could see the musicians on stage looking confused as they shuffled through sheet music. One violinist shook his head at the pianist, shrugging. As they got closer, Emma noticed Vanessa watching from across the room, a smile of pure satisfaction on her face. She exchanged a triumphant look with her bridesmaids. In that moment, Emma's stomach dropped as understanding dawned. This wasn't an opportunity. It was a trap. Julia pulled Emma closer to the stage, her grip tight on Emma's arm. Emma tried to stop walking. "Wait," Emma said. "Something isn't right. The band doesn't seem prepared for me." Julia finally looked at Emma, guilt clear in her eyes. "I'm sorry, I tried to talk her out of this, but she insisted." "Talk her out of what? What's happening?" Before Julia could answer, Vanessa took the microphone from the band leader. The music stopped, and 300 guests turned to face the stage. "Everyone," Vanessa announced, her voice ringing through the ballroom, "we have a special treat for you tonight. Our maid thinks she can sing for us." Emma felt the blood drain from her face as all eyes turned to her. She stood frozen near the stage, still in her black uniform with her pregnant belly clearly visible. Some guests looked confused, others amused. A few bridesmaids giggled behind their hands. "Go on," Julia whispered. "I'm so sorry." Emma shook her head. "I can't do this. She set me up." She turned to leave, but 2 security guards blocked her path. "Mrs. Bennett asked that you remain for your performance," one guard said firmly. "This is crazy," Emma protested. "I never agreed to be humiliated." "Please welcome Emma Wilson," Vanessa continued, her smile cruel. "She'll be singing for our first dance. Isn't that special?" The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some people clapped politely while others whispered to each other. Emma could read the judgment on their faces. Who did this pregnant maid think she was? Trapped and mortified, Emma slowly walked onto the stage. Her legs felt weak, and the baby kicked frantically, responding to her stress. The stage lights were too bright, with no proper setup for a singer. There was no music stand for lyrics, no proper microphone placement. Vanessa handed Emma the microphone, leaning in to whisper, "Try not to embarrass yourself too much." Then she stepped back, joining Richard, who had just entered the ballroom. He looked confused, glancing between Emma and Vanessa with a frown. Emma stood alone on stage, facing 300 wealthy strangers in her maid's uniform. Her worst nightmare was coming true: public rejection in front of Los Angeles elite. She could hear whispers and see smirks on some faces. She's going to sing? The help? Is this some kind of joke? Poor thing looks terrified. From the kitchen doorway, Emma spotted Antonio watching with concern. Margaret Bennett sat straight in her chair, her expression troubled. Michael Reed stood near the back, his arms crossed as he observed the scene. The band leader approached Emma hesitantly. "What song are you singing, miss?" "We have no sheet music for you." Emma looked at the paper in her trembling hand. The song Vanessa had given her was complex, with high notes she hadn't attempted in years. It was clearly chosen to make her fail. In that moment, Emma made a decision. She wouldn't try to sing Vanessa's impossible song. Instead, she would sing her own. "I'll sing something else," Emma told the band leader. "Something I wrote. Just give me a simple 4-beat rhythm. Very slow." The man nodded, returning to his musicians to relay the instructions. Emma closed her eyes, trying to calm her racing heart. She thought of her journey, from Nashville singer with dreams to pregnant maid facing humiliation. She thought of her unborn daughter, who would someday hear this story. The drummer began a slow, steady beat. Emma took a deep breath and opened her eyes. "This song is called Rise from the Ashes," she said quietly into the microphone. Her voice was soft at first, almost breaking with emotion. "When your dreams turn to dust and the music goes silent. When the one that you trust leaves you broken and crying." Emma's voice grew stronger with each word, filling the ballroom with unexpected power and emotion. "Sometimes you fall so you can rise higher from the ashes of it all, find your hidden fire." The crowd fell completely silent. The whispering stopped. Even the waiters stood still, trays in hand, listening. Emma's voice was pure and powerful, conveying pain and hope in equal measure. The band, sensing something special happening, began to join in. The pianist found complementary chords, and the violinist added a gentle melody that perfectly matched Emma's voice. Richard stood at the back of the room, his expression changing from confusion to awe. He watched Emma transform before his eyes from an invisible maid to a commanding presence whose voice filled every corner of the room. Vanessa's smile had disappeared. She stood rigid beside Richard, her face darkening as she watched her plan backfire. This was supposed to be a moment of humiliation, not triumph. As Emma sang the final chorus, her voice soared to notes that raised goosebumps on the arms of many guests. "I will rise from the ashes stronger than before, I will rise from the ashes and I won't fall anymore." When she finished, the ballroom remained silent for 3 long seconds. Then, as if a spell had broken, applause erupted. Several guests stood, clapping with genuine appreciation. One woman in the front wiped tears from her eyes. Emma stood still, surprised by the reaction. She had expected mockery, not a standing ovation. For a brief moment, she felt like her old self again, the singer with dreams of Nashville stages. The moment was shattered when Vanessa pushed through the musicians and grabbed the microphone from Emma's hands. "Wasn't that cute?" Vanessa said with forced sweetness. "Now back to the kitchen where you belong." The crowd's mood shifted instantly. Uncomfortable murmurs spread as guests exchanged glances. The cruelty of Vanessa's words hung in the air, impossible to ignore. Emma felt the sting despite the applause. With as much dignity as she could muster, she stepped back from the microphone. She wanted to leave the stage quickly, to escape the hundreds of eyes still watching her. In her haste, she didn't notice a puddle of water on the stage, spilled earlier during dinner service and never cleaned up. Her foot hit the slick spot, and Emma felt herself falling. She hit the floor hard, crying out in pain as she landed on her side. Instinctively, she wrapped her arms around her pregnant belly. The crowd gasped. Richard immediately pushed through guests, rushing toward the stage. "Emma!" he called, concern clear in his voice. "Are you all right?" Vanessa remained at the microphone, her voice sharp. "Richard, we need to continue with our first dance. The staff can handle this." Richard ignored her, climbing onto the stage and kneeling beside Emma. "Are you hurt? Is the baby okay?" he asked, his hand gently touching her shoulder. Emma tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "I think so. I just need a minute." Michael Reed appeared beside them, already on his phone. "I'm calling for medical help. Just stay still, Emma." From the kitchen, Antonio rushed out with a glass of water and a clean towel. He knelt on Emma's other side, his face filled with concern. "Take slow breaths," Antonio advised. "Don't try to move yet." Vanessa's voice grew louder from the microphone. "Richard, everyone is waiting. This is our wedding." The entire ballroom watched as Richard completely ignored his new wife's calls. His focus remained entirely on Emma, helping her to a sitting position with gentle hands. "Can someone get a chair?" Richard called to the staff. 2 waiters quickly brought a chair to the edge of the stage. With Richard's help, Emma managed to stand and make her way to the chair. She sat down, still holding her stomach protectively. "I'm so sorry this happened," Richard said quietly to Emma. "I had no idea." Vanessa stormed across the stage, her white dress sweeping behind her. "Richard, this is ridiculous. It's our first dance. You can't leave me standing here for the help." The room fell silent again as guests watched the drama unfold. Vanessa's words hung in the air, revealing more about her character than she realized. Richard slowly stood and faced his new wife. His expression had changed from concern to something harder, colder. "That's enough, Vanessa," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Enough? This is our wedding! She's ruining everything!" Vanessa hissed. As Richard opened his mouth to respond, Antonio stepped forward, his phone held high. "I think everyone should know what really happened here tonight," he said loudly. Antonio held his phone up higher as Vanessa tried to grab it from his hand. "What do you think you're doing?" Vanessa demanded, her face flushed with anger. "Showing everyone the truth," Antonio replied calmly. He pressed a button on his phone screen and turned up the volume. Vanessa's voice played clearly through the speaker. I can't wait to see that pregnant nobody make a fool of herself. I've told security not to let her leave the stage no matter what. It'll put her back in her place." Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Nearby guests exchanged shocked glances. The recording continued with Vanessa laughing as she said, "Richard will never know I set her up. He'll just think she embarrassed herself trying to get attention." But Vanessa's face drained of color. That's taken out of context. He edited that." "I recorded it this morning when you were talking to your bridesmaids in the kitchen," Antonio said. "I knew you were planning something cruel." Richard stood perfectly still, his expression hardening as he listened. Margaret Bennett approached the stage, her face showing deep disappointment as she looked at her new daughter-in-law. "Is this true, Vanessa?" Richard asked quietly. "Of course not. It's obviously fake." Vanessa grabbed Richard's arm. "Are you really going to believe the kitchen help over your wife?" Emma remained seated, one hand protectively cradling her belly. The pain from her fall still radiated through her side, but she was more concerned about her baby than the drama unfolding around her. Richard gently removed Vanessa's hand from his arm. Without speaking, he reached for his left hand and slowly removed his wedding ring. The simple gesture created immediate silence in the room. "What are you doing?" Vanessa whispered, her voice suddenly afraid. "This marriage is over," Richard said loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. "It was a mistake that thankfully lasted less than 2 hours." "You can't be serious," Vanessa said. "Over a stupid maid?" Richard looked directly at Vanessa. "This has nothing to do with Emma. This is about who you are, who you've always been, but I refuse to see it." He turned to face the stunned wedding guests. "I apologize to everyone for this situation. The reception is ended. Please understand this is for the best." Michael approached with a hotel security officer. "The paramedics are on their way," he told Richard. "They should be here in about 5 minutes." "Thank you, Michael," Richard said. He turned back to Emma, kneeling beside her chair. "How are you feeling?" "The pain is getting worse," Emma admitted quietly. "I'm worried about the baby." Vanessa's parents rushed to their daughter's side. Her mother put an arm around Vanessa's shoulders while her father confronted Richard. "You can't just end a marriage like this," Mr. Clark said. "There are legal processes, discussions to be had." "We can discuss the legalities tomorrow," Richard replied firmly. "Right now, I'm concerned about Emma's health." Vanessa suddenly burst into tears, the perfect bride image crumbling completely. "This is so humiliating. How could you do this to me on our wedding day?" "How could you do this to another human being?" Margaret asked, stepping closer to Vanessa. "That young woman is pregnant and you deliberately set her up for public humiliation." The crowd began to disperse, guests whispering among themselves as they gathered their belongings. Some looked embarrassed, others secretly delighted by the drama. Expensive gifts sat abandoned on a table near the entrance. The paramedics arrived, pushing through the remaining guests with a stretcher. They quickly assessed Emma, checking her vital signs and asking questions about her pregnancy. "How far along are you?" one paramedic asked. 6 months, Emma replied. "Any bleeding or fluid leakage?" "No, just pain on my right side where I fell." The paramedics helped Emma onto the stretcher. "We'll take you to Cedars-Sinai to be checked out. It's probably just bruising, but with a pregnancy, we don't take chances." Richard stood nearby. "I'd like to go with her," he told the paramedics. "Are you family?" they asked. Before Richard could answer, Vanessa shouted across the room, "He's my husband! He's not going anywhere with her." Richard turned to face Vanessa one last time. "No, I'm not your husband. The paperwork hasn't been filed yet, and it never will be." He looked back at the paramedics. "I'm her employer, and I feel responsible for what happened tonight." "That's fine, sir," the paramedic said. "You can follow us in your car." As they wheeled Emma toward the exit, Antonio approached her. "I'll clean out your room at the house and pack your things," he said. "You shouldn't come back there with her still around." "Thank you," Emma whispered, tears finally filling her eyes. I'm sorry about all this." "Don't apologize," Antonio said firmly. "You did nothing wrong. Your voice is amazing, by the way." Margaret came to Emma's side as well. "I'll make sure your belongings are safe," she promised, "and I'll check on you tomorrow." As the paramedics lifted the stretcher into the ambulance, Emma could see Vanessa through the ballroom doors, still in her wedding dress, surrounded by her bridesmaids and parents. The perfect wedding had dissolved into chaos. Richard spoke briefly with Michael, then walked to his car to follow the ambulance. As he passed Vanessa, she called out to him, "You're choosing the help over your wife?" Her voice was shrill with disbelief. Richard paused. "You were never my wife. The marriage ended before it began." He continued walking, adding, "Just like your social standing in this town after tonight." The ride to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center was tense and quiet. Emma lay in the ambulance answering the paramedics' questions while worrying about what would happen next. She had lost her job and her home in one night. Even if the baby was okay, where would they go? At the hospital, doctors immediately took Emma for an ultrasound while Richard waited in the hallway, still wearing his wedding tuxedo. Nurses gave him curious looks as they passed, but he ignored them, focused on his phone as he sent messages to Michael. After 30 minutes, a doctor emerged from the examination room. "Mr. Bennett?" she asked. "Yes." Richard stood quickly. "How is she? Is the baby okay?" "Both mother and baby are fine," the doctor assured him. "She experienced Braxton Hicks contractions triggered by stress and the fall. There's some bruising on her hip, but no signs of placental abruption or preterm labor. We want to monitor her for a few hours to be safe." Relief washed over Richard's face. "Can I see her?" "Yes, she's asking for you." Richard entered the room to find Emma lying in a hospital bed, a monitor strapped to her belly tracking the baby's heartbeat. The steady rhythm filled the room, strong and reassuring. "The baby's okay," Emma said immediately, seeing Richard's concerned expression. "The doctor told me," he replied, sitting in a chair beside her bed. "How are you feeling?" "Sore, embarrassed, worried about what happens next." Emma couldn't meet his eyes. "I'm sorry about your wedding." Richard shook his head. "Don't apologize. I should be thanking you." "Thanking me? For what?" "For showing me who Vanessa really is before it was too late." Richard ran a hand through his hair. "I've been ignoring red flags for months. Michael tried to warn me, but I didn't listen." They sat in silence for a moment, the baby's heartbeat the only sound in the room. "Your voice is extraordinary," Richard finally said. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" Emma looked surprised at the change of subject. "I've been singing since I was little. I studied music in college and performed in Nashville for 5 years before—" She placed her hand on her belly. "Before the baby's father left?" Emma nodded. "Jake didn't want a child. He was focused on his music career. When I told him I was pregnant, he was gone the next day." Richard frowned. "I'm sorry." "It's okay. I've made peace with it." A nurse entered to check Emma's vitals, breaking the moment between them. As she worked, she glanced at Richard's tuxedo. "Special occasion?" she asked. Richard and Emma exchanged a look, and despite everything, they both smiled. "You could say that," Richard replied. After the nurse left, Richard's phone buzzed with messages. He checked them quickly. "Michael has handled things at the venue," he told Emma. "My mother is staying at the house tonight to make sure Vanessa removes her belongings. Antonio is packing your things." "Where will I go?" Emma asked, the reality of her situation sinking in. "You don't need to worry about that tonight," Richard assured her. "For now, just rest and take care of yourself and the baby. We'll figure everything out tomorrow." Emma nodded, suddenly exhausted from the events of the day. Her eyelids grew heavy as the medication the doctors had given her for pain began to take effect. As she drifted toward sleep, she heard Richard say softly, "That song you wrote, Rise from the Ashes. It's remarkable. The world should hear it." Emma woke to sunlight streaming through hospital blinds. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then the events of the previous night came flooding back. The wedding, the song, the fall, and Richard ending his marriage minutes after it began. A nurse entered, checking the monitor that still tracked the baby's heartbeat. "Good morning. How are you feeling?" "Better," Emma said. "Is my baby still okay?" "Strong heartbeat, normal movement. The doctor will be in soon to discuss discharge." The nurse adjusted Emma's pillows. "You have visitors waiting. Should I send them in?" Before Emma could answer, the door opened and Margaret Bennett entered carrying a small suitcase. Behind her came Antonio with a box of Emma's belongings. "Oh, my dear," Margaret said, taking Emma's hand. "How are you feeling?" "I'm okay. The doctor says the baby wasn't harmed." Antonio set the box down. "I packed everything from your room. Vanessa was still there when I left, but she was packing too." "What happened after I left?" Emma asked. Margaret sat in the chair beside the bed. "Chaos at first. Then Michael took charge, explaining to guests that the reception was cancelled due to a medical emergency. Most people left quickly." She paused. "Vanessa's parents tried to convince Richard to reconsider, but he was firm. The marriage is over." Antonio nodded. "The recording has already spread. I received calls from 3 guests asking for copies." "I never meant to cause such trouble," Emma said quietly. "You didn't cause anything," Margaret assured her. "Vanessa created this situation herself." The door opened again, and Richard entered carrying coffee cups. He had changed from his tuxedo into jeans and a button-down shirt. "I thought you might need this," he said, offering coffee to Margaret and Antonio. To Emma, he handed a cup of tea. The nurse said this was allowed. "Thank you," Emma said. Their fingers brushed as she took the cup and she quickly looked away. "I spoke with your doctor," Richard said. "They'll discharge you this afternoon if all remains stable." "That's good," Emma replied, though anxiety clouded her face. "I need to find a place to stay and look for another job." "Actually," Richard began, "I wanted to talk to you about that. You don't need to worry about either right now." "What do you mean?" Richard sat on the edge of the bed. "I have a guest house on my property. It's separate from the main house with its own entrance. You're welcome to stay there until you figure out your next steps." "I can't accept that," Emma protested. "It's too much." "Consider it part of your severance package," Richard said. "Plus, I have a business proposition for you." Before Emma could respond, a doctor entered the room holding a clipboard. "Ms. Wilson, let's check on you and the baby." Margaret, Antonio, and Richard stepped out while the doctor examined Emma. In the hallway, Richard received a call from Michael. "How bad is it?" Richard asked. Margaret and Antonio could only hear Richard's side of the conversation. "That's expected." "No, I don't regret it." "Yes, please have my lawyer call me." "Thanks for handling everything, Michael." When he hung up, Margaret touched her son's arm. "Is everything all right?" "Vanessa's family is threatening legal action," Richard explained, "and there are already stories circulating online about what happened." "Are you worried?" Antonio asked. "Number?" "The truth is on our side, thanks to your recording." Inside the room, the doctor finished her examination. "Everything looks good, Ms. Wilson. You and your baby are healthy. Just take it easy for a few days. No heavy lifting or strenuous activity." "When can I go back to work?" Emma asked. "Light duties only for at least a week," the doctor advised. "Avoid standing for long periods." After the doctor left, the others returned. Emma looked at Richard. "What was this business proposition you mentioned?" she asked. Richard pulled his chair closer to the bed. "Your song last night was extraordinary, not just the performance, but the composition itself. I have connections in the music industry through my company's entertainment clients. I'd like to introduce you to some producers who could help record your song professionally." Emma stared at him in disbelief. "You want to help me with my music?" "It's not charity," Richard clarified. I believe your song has commercial potential. This would be a business arrangement. If the song succeeds, we both benefit." "I don't know what to say," Emma replied. "Say yes," Margaret encouraged. "Richard never makes business offers unless he sees genuine potential." Antonio nodded in agreement. "Your voice moved everyone in that room last night, Emma. Even people who came expecting to laugh were crying instead." Emma twisted the small silver ring on her finger, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. "But I'm going to have a baby in 3 months. I can't exactly start a music career right now." "That's why the guest house is perfect," Richard explained. "You can rest during your final trimester, record demos when you feel up to it, and we'll develop a plan for after the baby arrives." As they discussed the details, a nurse entered with discharge papers. While Emma signed them, Richard's phone buzzed continuously with messages. "Is that about the wedding?" Emma asked. Richard checked his phone. "Partly. Vanessa's bridesmaids posted photos claiming we had a secret relationship. Fortunately, the recording is circulating too, discrediting their story." "I'm so sorry this is affecting your reputation," Emma said. "Don't worry about my reputation," Richard replied. "My company is solid. My real friends know the truth." Once the paperwork was complete, a hospital aide arrived with a wheelchair to take Emma to the exit. Hospital policy required all patients to leave this way, despite Emma's protests that she could walk. As they reached Richard's car, Emma noticed a photographer across the street. "Someone's taking pictures of us." Richard helped her into the passenger seat. "Ignore them. The story will die down soon enough." During the drive to Richard's Westwood home, Emma gazed out the window, lost in thought. Her life had changed completely in 24 hours. "Are you okay?" Richard asked. "Just overwhelmed," Emma admitted. "Yesterday I was your maid. Today you're offering to help with my music career." Life changes quickly sometimes. When they arrived at Richard's mansion, he drove past the main entrance to a tree-lined path leading to a small but elegant guest house. Built in the same Spanish style as the main house, it featured large windows and a private patio. "This is the guest house?" Emma asked in surprise. "It's been empty since my sister moved out last year," Richard explained. "Antonio brought your things earlier and stocked the kitchen with food." Inside, Emma found a spacious living area with comfortable furniture, a fully equipped kitchen, and a bedroom with an attached bathroom. Her few belongings had been carefully arranged on the dresser. "This is too much," she said, turning to Richard. "I can't." "You can," he interrupted gently. "Consider it a temporary solution while we figure out next steps for your music." Emma walked to the window, looking out at the garden. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Richard was quiet for a moment. "Partly because I feel responsible for what happened, partly because I believe in your talent, and partly because—" He paused. "Because sometimes people deserve a second chance at their dreams." A knock at the door interrupted them. Margaret entered, carrying grocery bags. "I brought some pregnancy essentials," she announced. "Ginger tea for nausea, body pillow for sleeping, and those stretch mark creams everyone recommends." Emma smiled, touched by the thoughtfulness. "Thank you, Mrs. Bennett." "Please call me Margaret. I think we're past formalities." As Margaret unpacked the bags, Richard's phone rang again. He checked the screen and frowned. "I need to take this," he said. "It's my lawyer." While Richard stepped outside, Margaret sat beside Emma on the couch. "He's a good man," Margaret said quietly. "Better than his taste in fiancés would suggest." Emma blushed. "I know, he's been very kind." "It's more than kindness," Margaret observed. "He recognizes your talent. Richard has always had an eye for potential, in business and in people." Outside, they could hear Richard's voice growing firmer. "No, I will not meet with her. The recording speaks for itself. I understand the legal implications." When he returned, his expression was tense. Vanessa's family is pressing for a settlement to keep things quiet. Will you agree? Emma asked. Number I have nothing to hide. Richard sat across from them. Antonio's recording has already circulated among most of the guests. Vanessa's version of events isn't gaining traction. Margaret stood to leave. I should go. Emma needs rest and you have calls to make. She kissed Emma's cheek. I'll visit tomorrow. Call if you need anything. After Margaret left, Richard and Emma sat in awkward silence for a moment. I should go too, Richard finally said. You must be tired. What happens now? Emma asked. With your music connections, I mean. I'll make some calls tomorrow. There's a producer named Sam Jackson who might be particularly interested in your sound. Richard stood. Rest today. Tomorrow we can start planning your future. As Richard walked to the door, Emma called after him. Thank you for everything. Richard turned. Thank you for that song. It changed more than you know. After he left, Emma sat alone in the quiet guest house, one hand resting on her belly. Well, baby, she whispered, our life just changed in ways I never imagined. Over the next 2 months, Emma's life transformed in ways she never imagined. The small guest house became her sanctuary as her pregnancy advanced. Richard converted part of the space into a simple recording area with soundproofing panels and basic equipment. Sam Jackson is coming tomorrow, Richard said one morning as he adjusted a microphone stand. He's very interested in your song. Emma rested her hand on her now large belly. I'm nervous. I haven't performed professionally in years. He heard the wedding recording. He already knows you're talented. The first meeting with Sam went better than Emma expected. A tall man with gray dreadlocks and decades of music industry experience, Sam listened intently as Emma sang Rise from the Ashes while Richard recorded. When she finished, Sam smiled broadly. That's something special right there. Raw, honest, powerful. We can work with this. Over the following weeks, Emma recorded demos while Sam arranged studio musicians and created production plans. Despite being 8 months pregnant, Emma found new energy in creating music again. Meanwhile, Vanessa's attempts to damage Richard's reputation fell flat. The recording of her plan to humiliate Emma had spread throughout Los Angeles social circles, and several wedding guests publicly supported Richard's version of events. Her family's foundation lost 3 major donors, Michael told Richard during a visit to the guest house. Her parents finally convinced her to return to New York. Good, Richard replied. Maybe she can rebuild her life there. Emma tried to stay out of the drama, focusing instead on her music and preparing for her baby. Margaret visited almost daily, bringing baby clothes and pregnancy advice. My water broke, Emma said early one Tuesday morning, calling Richard's phone at 3 o'clock. I think the baby is coming. Richard arrived at the guest house within minutes. I'll drive you to the hospital. Your bag is packed? By the door, Emma said, breathing through a contraction. At Cedars Sinai Medical Center, Emma's labor progressed quickly. Richard called Margaret, Antonio, and Michael, who all arrived to wait in the hospital lobby. You don't have to stay, Emma told Richard as the contractions intensified. This could take hours. I'm not going anywhere, he replied, surprising both of them with his certainty. After 6 hours of labor, Emma gave birth to a healthy baby girl weighing 7 pounds and 4 ounces. She's beautiful, the nurse said, placing the tiny infant on Emma's chest. Do you have a name picked out? Emma looked at the red-faced, squirming baby with wispy dark hair. Lily. Her name is Lily Wilson. Later, when Emma had rested, Richard entered the hospital room with Margaret, Antonio, and Michael. She's perfect, Margaret whispered, gently touching Lily's tiny hand. Antonio wiped away a tear. Like a little angel. Michael placed a large gift bag beside the bed. From all of us. Baby essentials. Richard stood slightly apart from the others, watching Emma hold her daughter with a look of wonder. Something shifted in his chest, a feeling he wasn't ready to name. When the others left to find coffee, Richard sat beside Emma's bed. "Thank you for being here," Emma said. "I never expected to have anyone with me for this." "I wouldn't have missed it," Richard replied. His phone buzzed with a message. "It's from Sam. He's been working on your recording while you've been here." Emma adjusted Lily in her arms. "What does he say?" "The label loves your song. They want to release it as a single." Richard showed her the message. "They think it has hit potential." Emma looked down at Lily, then back at Richard. "Everything's happening so fast. 2 months ago I was your maid and now I have a baby and possibly a music career. Life changes quickly sometimes," Richard said, echoing his words from the day after the wedding. During Emma's recovery in the hospital, Sam sent daily updates on the recording's progress. Studio musicians had added gentle instrumentation to Emma's vocals, enhancing the emotional quality without overwhelming her voice. "Listen to this latest mix," Richard said, holding his phone near Emma's bed on her 3rd day in the hospital. Emma closed her eyes as the music played. Her voice, backed by piano and soft strings, filled the small room. When the song ended, she opened her eyes to find Richard watching her. "It's beautiful," she said. "I never imagined it could sound like that." "Sam wants you to record the final vocals next week. He can set up equipment at the guest house so you don't have to travel with the baby." 1 week after Lily's birth, Emma and the baby returned to the guest house. Richard had arranged for a part-time nurse to help Emma during her recovery, allowing her to rest while also working on her music. Sam arrived with recording equipment and set it up in the living room. "We'll keep it simple," he told Emma. "Just you and the microphone with the baby monitor right beside you so you can hear Lily." Between feedings and diaper changes, Emma recorded the final vocals for "Rise from the Ashes." Her voice, changed slightly by childbirth and new motherhood, carried even more emotional depth than before. "That's it," Sam said after Emma completed the final take. "We have everything we need. The label wants to release this in 2 weeks." "So soon?" Emma asked, surprised. "They're excited about your story. The talented singer who was humiliated at a millionaire's wedding only to rise above it with her song, while giving birth no less. It's marketing gold." Emma frowned. "I don't want to be marketed as some kind of victim." "Don't worry," Richard assured her. "I've reviewed their campaign plans. They're focusing on your talent and resilience, not exploiting the scandal." As the release date approached, Emma's anxiety grew. One evening, as Richard helped her assemble a crib in the guest house, she voiced her fears. What if people only care about the wedding drama? What if they don't actually like the song? Richard paused, screwdriver in hand. "The song stands on its own merit. But even if some people listen initially because of the story, they'll stay for your voice." Emma lifted Lily from her bassinet as the baby began to fuss. "I want her to be proud of me someday. Not just as her mom, but as someone who followed her dreams." Richard watched Emma rock Lily gently. His feelings for her had grown stronger each day, but he kept them carefully contained. Emma was vulnerable, a new mother just starting to rebuild her life. The last thing she needed was her former employer developing romantic feelings for her. "She will be proud," Richard said. "You're building something meaningful." The day Rise from the Ashes was released, Emma sat in the guest house feeding Lily while Richard monitored online reactions. "It's been played over 1,000 times already," he reported. "The comments are overwhelmingly positive." Within days, radio stations across the country began playing the song. Music blogs featured Emma's story and praised her authentic voice and emotional songwriting. "Your song just hit number 25 on the Billboard chart," Sam announced during a phone call 10 days after the release. "That's extraordinary for a debut single." Each day, the song climbed higher. Emma watched in amazement as her music reached more people than she had ever imagined possible. "Number 3, Michael exclaimed during a dinner at the guest house 3 weeks after the release. "You've officially made it, Emma." Emma looked around the table at the people who had become her support system. Richard, Margaret, Antonio, Michael, and even Sam had joined them to celebrate. Baby Lily slept peacefully in a bassinet nearby. "I couldn't have done this without all of you," Emma said. Later that evening, after everyone left, Emma found Richard on the patio looking at the stars. "Thank you for everything," she said, joining him. "I think it's time I start looking for my own place." Richard turned to her, surprised. "You don't have to leave. You're welcome to stay as long as you need. I know, and I'm grateful, but with the song doing well and the label offering an advance for a full album, I can afford my own home now. Lily and I need our own space to build our life." Richard nodded, hiding his disappointment. "Of course, I understand." "I found a small house in Studio City," Emma continued. "Nothing fancy, but it has a yard and a room I could convert to a home studio." "That sounds perfect for you and Lily," Emma smiled. "It feels good to plan our future. 6 months ago, I was desperate and alone. Now I have options. And it's because you believed in me." "I just recognized what was already there," Richard said. "Your talent, your strength, those were always part of you." As they stood together under the night sky, Richard's phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. "It's my lawyer," he said. "I should take this." Richard stepped away to answer the call, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts. Her life had changed so dramatically, but the biggest changes were still to come. With her song climbing the charts and a new home on the horizon, Emma finally felt ready to embrace the future, whatever it might hold. Richard returned from his phone call, his expression serious. "Everything okay?" Emma asked. "That was my lawyer. Vanessa's publicist is trying to plant stories about us in the tabloids. They're claiming our relationship started months before the wedding." Emma shook her head. "That's ridiculous. We barely spoke before that night." "The truth doesn't matter to them. They're trying to save her reputation." Richard put his phone away. "But don't worry. My legal team will handle it." 3 weeks later, Emma stood in the living room of her new Studio City home watching as movers carried in the last of her furniture. Sunlight streamed through large windows, highlighting the hardwood floors and fresh paint. At 3 months old, Lily lay on a playmat, kicking her legs and making soft, gurgling sounds. "This place is perfect," Margaret said, arranging baby clothes in a drawer. "Close enough to visit, but your own space." Emma smiled. "I never thought I'd own a home, especially in Los Angeles." The doorbell rang. Emma opened it to find Richard holding a potted plant and a small wrapped gift. "Housewarming presents," he said, stepping inside. "The plant is supposed to be easy to care for. Good for busy new moms." "It's beautiful," Emma said, taking the items. "Thank you." Richard knelt beside Lily, who immediately grabbed his finger. "Hello there, little one. Do you like your new home?" While Lily entertained Richard, Emma unwrapped the small gift, a framed copy of the Billboard chart showing "Rise from the Ashes" at number 3. "I thought you might want to remember this moment," Richard explained, standing up. "Your first hit." "I can hardly believe it's real," Emma said, placing the frame on her mantel. "Sometimes I think I'll wake up and find myself back in the mansion folding laundry." Margaret laughed. "No chance of that. You're a rising star now." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Antonio carrying a large pot. "Homemade soup," he announced, "for the new homeowner." As they gathered in Emma's kitchen, the conversation turned to Vanessa. "I heard she's back in New York," Antonio said. "Her family pulled some strings to get her a job at their foundation." "After they tried to ruin my reputation?" Richard shook his head. "Their strategy backfired. Most of our wedding guests have contacted me to express support." "The recording made it clear what really happened," Margaret added. "No one believes her version anymore." Emma changed the subject, uncomfortable with discussing Vanessa. "Sam called this morning. The label wants me to start working on a full album." "That's wonderful news," Richard said. "How do you feel about it?" excited, scared. I never expected this second chance. Emma looked at Lily. I'll need to find childcare while I record. I'd be happy to help, Margaret offered. I'm already in love with this little girl. Later that afternoon, after Margaret and Antonio left, Richard helped Emma set up a small recording area in the spare bedroom. Sam is bringing better equipment tomorrow, Richard explained, positioning a microphone stand. This is just temporary. It's more than enough, Emma said. I still can't believe this is happening. Richard paused, watching Emma as she sorted through sheets of music. In the 3 weeks since the wedding disaster, their relationship had evolved from employer-employee to something deeper, a friendship built on mutual respect and shared experiences. How are you really doing? Richard asked, with everything changing so quickly. Emma sat on the edge of the bed. Sometimes it feels overwhelming. 3 months ago I was worried about paying rent, and now I have a house and a record deal. You deserve it all, Richard said. Your talent is extraordinary. Emma blushed at the compliment. What about you? How are you handling the aftermath of everything? Better than expected. The company hasn't suffered. Most people have already forgotten about the wedding that wasn't. And personally? Emma asked cautiously. Richard considered the question. I've realized how close I came to making a terrible mistake. Vanessa and I were wrong for each other from the beginning. I just refused to see it. Their conversation was interrupted by Lily's cries from the other room. Emma hurried to check on her daughter, returning with the baby in her arms. Someone's hungry, she explained. Richard stood. I should go. You have your hands full and I have a meeting with Michael about a new project. A new security software? Emma asked, settling into a rocking chair with Lily. Actually, no. I'm considering stepping back from daily operations at the company. Michael can handle things while I focus on something new, a foundation to support single parents with artistic ambitions. Emma looked up in surprise. That's a big change. Your journey inspired me, Richard admitted. There are many talented people who just need support and opportunity. After Richard left, Emma fed Lily while thinking about his words. The idea that her experience could inspire something that would help others filled her with warmth. The next morning, Sam Jackson arrived with professional recording equipment and exciting news. The label loves your story, he told Emma as they set up. Young single mother overcomes humiliation to achieve musical success. They want to feature Lily in some of the promotional materials, if you're comfortable with that. Emma frowned. I don't want to exploit my baby for publicity. That's your choice, Sam assured her. But consider this. Showing yourself as a mother pursuing her dreams could inspire other women in similar situations. As they worked on arrangements for Emma's songs, Sam introduced her to session musicians who would play on her album. Your song connected with all of us, said Lisa, a violinist who had played on countless hit records. It feels authentic in a way most songs don't. By evening, they had mapped out 5 songs for the album, with Rise from the Ashes as the centerpiece. Emma felt creative energy she hadn't experienced since before her pregnancy. The following week, recording began in earnest. Emma balanced studio sessions with caring for Lily, often rocking the baby between takes. Margaret frequently helped, caring for Lily in another room while Emma recorded vocals. You sound different now, Sam observed during one session. There's more depth to your voice since having Lily. Motherhood changes everything, Emma replied. During a lunch break, Emma received a call from a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Emma? It's Jake Miller. Emma froze at the sound of her ex-boyfriend's voice, the father of her child, who had disappeared when she told him about the pregnancy. How did you get my number? She asked coldly. I saw you on the news. Your song is everywhere. Jake paused. I heard you had the baby. Her name is Lily, Emma said. She's 3 months old. I've been thinking, maybe we should talk about, me meeting her sometime. Emma gripped the phone tightly. You left me the day I told you I was pregnant. You haven't called once in a year." "I know, and I'm sorry. I wasn't ready then, but I'm different now." "No, Jake. You don't get to disappear and then reappear when it's convenient. Lily deserves better than that." After ending the call, Emma sat shaking until Sam found her. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Lily's father called. He saw the news about the song and suddenly wants to be involved." Sam shook his head. Amazing how success makes people remember old connections. That evening, Emma told Richard about Jake's call during his visit to see the recording set up. "He has some legal rights as her father," Richard said carefully, "but given the circumstances, you should consult a lawyer before agreeing to anything. I can't afford a custody battle," Emma worried. "You won't have to," Richard assured her. "I know excellent family lawyers who can advise you. Don't meet with him without legal counsel." As they talked, Emma realized how much she had come to rely on Richard, not just for business guidance but for emotional support as well. He had become an important figure in both her and Lily's lives. "Why are you doing all this for us?" Emma asked suddenly. Richard looked surprised by the question. "Because I care about you both," he said simply, "and because everyone deserves someone in their corner." The next day, during a recording session, Emma poured her new emotions into her performance. The musicians watched in awe as she sang with raw power and vulnerability. "That was incredible," Sam said when she finished. "Whatever you're feeling right now, keep channeling it." As Emma drove home that evening, a billboard on Sunset Boulevard caught her eye. It featured her face and the title of her song, with a release date for her upcoming album. For the first time, Emma truly believed that her life had changed forever. She was no longer Emma the Maid, but Emma Wilson, recording artist, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Emma couldn't stop thinking about the billboard she had seen on Sunset Boulevard. Her face, her own face, larger than life, advertising her song to all of Los Angeles. The reality of her new life was finally sinking in. The next morning, Emma woke to Lily's cries at 5 o'clock. As she fed her daughter in the rocking chair, her phone buzzed with a text from Sam. "Turn on KBLA radio at 7:30. They're playing your song during morning drive time." 2 hours later, Emma sat in her kitchen with Lily in her lap, listening as the radio host introduced her song. "This next track is climbing charts nationwide," the host said. "From a former maid who stole the show at a millionaire's wedding, here's Emma Wilson with Rise from the Ashes." Hearing her voice on the radio brought tears to Emma's eyes. She hugged Lily close, whispering, "That's Mommy singing." The doorbell rang just as the song ended. Emma opened the door to find Richard standing there with coffee cups and a pink stuffed bear. "Did you hear it?" he asked excitedly. "I did," Emma replied, letting him in. "It doesn't feel real." "Well, this might help it feel more real," Richard said, pulling out his phone. "Your song just broke the top 20 on the national charts. Sam just called me." Emma sat down, stunned. "Top 20? Already?" "People connect with your story and your voice." Richard handed her the coffee. "The bear is for Lily." "She's napping finally," Emma said. "These early mornings are exhausting." Richard studied her face. "You look tired. Are you getting enough help?" "Margaret comes by most afternoons. Antonio visits too. I'm managing." "You're doing more than managing. You're recording an album while caring for a newborn." Emma smiled, grateful for his understanding. "How are things with the Vanessa situation?" Richard's expression darkened slightly. Her publicist tried shopping stories to several tabloids, but most editors passed after hearing the audio recording. Her parents finally convinced her to return to New York permanently. "That's good news," Emma said. "For everyone." "Enough about Vanessa," Richard said. "Sam told me the label wants to schedule a small showcase next month. Nothing too big, just industry people and some press." "I don't know if I'm ready to perform live," Emma worried. "What about Lily?" Margaret would watch her, I'm sure, and it would only be 2 or 3 songs. Before Emma could respond, her phone rang. It was Sam again. "Emma, turn on Entertainment Tonight. They're doing a segment on you right now." Emma fumbled for the remote control, turning on her small television. A perky host was speaking over images of Emma singing at the wedding, clearly phone footage from a guest. "The song that emerged from a wedding disaster has become this summer's surprise hit," the host said. Emma Wilson, a former maid who was publicly humiliated at tech millionaire Richard Bennett's wedding, has turned that moment into musical gold. Her single, Rise from the Ashes, has reached number 15 on the Billboard charts and continues to climb. The segment showed clips of social media reactions to her song, including messages from several famous singers praising her voice. "Oh my God," Emma whispered. "This is happening so fast." Richard watched her reaction carefully. "Is it too much?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "Part of me is thrilled, but another part is terrified. What if this is just a momentary thing? What if people forget about me in a month?" "That won't happen," Richard assured her. "Your talent is real. This isn't just about the wedding story." Over the next 2 weeks, Emma's life became a whirlwind of recording sessions, phone interviews, and caring for Lily. Her song continued its climb up the charts, reaching number 10, then number 5. One evening, while Emma was recording vocals in her home studio, Margaret arrived with exciting news. "Richard just called," she said, holding Lily. "Your song reached number 3 on the Billboard chart." Emma removed her headphones, shocked. "Number 3? That's impossible." "It's true. He's on his way over with champagne to celebrate." Within the hour, Richard, Margaret, Antonio, and Michael had gathered in Emma's living room. Sam joined them by phone on speaker. "Number 3 is extraordinary for a debut artist," Sam said. "The label is thrilled. They want to move up the album release date and schedule a small tour for next year." "A tour?" Emma glanced at Lily, asleep in her bassinet. "I can't travel with a baby." "We'll figure it out," Sam assured her. "Maybe just weekend shows in major cities. Nothing too demanding." After they ended the call with Sam, Richard raised his glass. To Emma, whose talent and courage created this moment. Everyone toasted, and Emma felt a rush of gratitude for these people who had become her support system, especially Richard, who had believed in her from the beginning. Later, after the others left, Richard helped Emma clean up. "I've been meaning to tell you," he said, rinsing glasses in the sink. "The foundation is officially established, the Richard Bennett Foundation for Artistic Parents." "That's a wonderful name," Emma said. "Actually, I was hoping to call it the Lily Foundation, if you don't mind." She was the inspiration, in a way. Emma felt tears well up. "I would be honored. And so would Lily, when she's old enough to understand." "I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations at my company," Richard continued. "Michael will take over as CEO while I focus on the foundation. I'd like you to be on the advisory board if you're willing." "Me? What would I do?" "Share your experience. Help identify promising artists who also happen to be parents. Your perspective would be invaluable." As they talked about the foundation's possibilities, Emma noticed Richard glancing at her differently, a softness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. She felt a flutter in her stomach that had nothing to do with music or career success. The moment was interrupted by Emma's phone ringing. She didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. "Is this Emma Wilson?" a male voice asked. "Yes, who's calling?" "This is Dennis Miller, Jake's father. I understand my son has a child with you." Emma froze. "Yes, a daughter named Lily. Jake told me he reached out to you and you refused to let him see his child." "He abandoned me when I told him I was pregnant," Emma said, her voice hardening. "He hasn't called once in 9 months." "Well, he's ready to be involved now. As his father and Lily's grandfather, I think it's only right that our family has access to her." "I need to discuss this with my lawyer," Emma said, looking at Richard with panic in her eyes. "Lawyer?" "We're talking about family here," Dennis said. Jake has rights as her father. I'll have my lawyer contact Jake, Emma replied firmly, then ended the call. Jake's father? Richard asked, immediately understanding the situation. They want access to Lily, Emma said, sinking into a chair. Now that the song is successful, suddenly Jake wants to be a father. Don't worry, Richard said, sitting beside her. I'll call my family attorney tonight. We'll protect Lily. Emma's hand shook. What if they try to take her from me? That won't happen, Richard promised. Courts favor the parent who has been present and caring for the child, which is you. Jake abandoned both of you. Emma nodded, trying to calm herself. Thank you for being here. I don't know what I'd do without your help. Richard took her hand. You'd figure it out. You're stronger than you realize, but you don't have to face this alone. The next morning, Richard's attorney, Barbara Chen, met with Emma at her house. Based on what you've told me, Jake has a very weak case for custody, Barbara explained. However, he may be entitled to visitation rights if he establishes paternity. What should I do? Emma asked. Let me handle all communication with him. Don't meet with him alone. Document everything. And don't worry too much. Courts prioritize the child's well-being, and Lily is clearly thriving in your care. Later that day, Emma received a call from Sam with unexpected news. The producers of The Voice want you to perform on next week's show, he said excitedly. It would be huge exposure. Next week? I don't know if I'm ready for television, Emma worried. You are absolutely ready, Sam insisted. Just one song, Rise from the Ashes. It's perfect timing with the song hitting number 3. After the call, Emma sat in her garden, watching hummingbirds visit the flowers Richard had planted as a housewarming gift. Her life had changed so completely in such a short time. 6 months ago, she had been pregnant, alone, and cleaning Richard's mansion. Now she had a beautiful daughter, a hit song, a record deal, and a growing circle of supportive friends. She even had feelings developing for Richard, feelings that both excited and frightened her. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from Richard. Just heard about The Voice. Congratulations. Dinner tomorrow to celebrate? I'll bring food to your place so you don't have to worry about a sitter for Lily. Emma smiled as she typed her reply. That sounds perfect. Thank you for everything. As she sent the message, Emma realized that despite the complications with Jake and the pressures of her new career, she had never felt more hopeful about the future. For the first time in her life, she was truly rising from the ashes of her past. 6 months passed in a whirlwind of music and motherhood. Emma's appearance on The Voice had catapulted her career further, leading to her album reaching the top 10 and multiple offers for live performances. Lily grew from a tiny infant to a curious 9-month-old who squealed with delight whenever music played. On a sunny spring morning, Emma sat at her kitchen table staring at an official-looking envelope. Inside was an invitation that still seemed impossible. Is that what I think it is? Richard asked, entering with a bag of groceries. He had taken to stopping by several times a week, often bringing food or toys for Lily. Emma nodded. The Hollywood Bowl wants me to perform next month. A full concert, not just one song. Emma, that's incredible. Richard set down the groceries and looked at the letter. The Hollywood Bowl is legendary. I know, I'm terrified. Emma watched as Lily played with blocks on her activity mat. I've never performed for that many people before. How many seats does it have? Over 17,000, Emma whispered. Richard sat beside her. You'll be amazing. Your voice was meant for a stage like that. Emma looked at him gratefully. Over the past months, their relationship had deepened beyond friendship, though neither had put their feelings into words yet. Richard had become a constant presence in both her and Lily's lives, helping with career decisions, watching Lily when Emma had interviews, even building a proper recording studio in her home. Sam called this morning too, Emma said. He wants me to add 2 new songs to the set list. Can you write them in time? I think so. I've been working on something about... Emma paused, suddenly shy. About finding love when you least expect it. Richard's eyes met hers and the air between them seemed to change. Before he could respond, Lily began to cry, breaking the moment. As Emma picked up her daughter, the doorbell rang. Richard answered it to find Barbara Chen, Emma's lawyer, standing on the porch with a serious expression. "I have news about Jake Miller," Barbara said once they were all seated in the living room. "He's filed for partial custody of Lily." Emma clutched Lily tighter. "He can't do that. He's never even met her." "Unfortunately, he can try," Barbara explained, "but his case is weak. He's claiming that now that he's stable, he deserves to be part of his daughter's life. By stable, he means he saw I'm successful and wants access to money," Emma said bitterly. Richard leaned forward. "What's our next step?" Barbara opened her briefcase. "I've prepared a counteroffer. We acknowledge his paternity but limit his visitation to supervised sessions initially with no overnight stays until Lily is at least 3 years old. He must also provide child support retroactive to her birth." "Do you think he'll agree?" Emma asked. "When he sees the financial obligations, he might reconsider how badly he wants to be a father," Barbara said. "Men like Jake often disappear again when they realize parenting involves responsibility, not just rights." After Barbara left, Emma put Lily down for a nap and returned to find Richard looking through her music sheets. "These new songs are beautiful," he said, "especially this one. Found You." Emma blushed. "It's still rough." "It's honest," Richard said, "like all your best work." "Richard?" Emma began hesitantly. "What are we doing?" "What do you mean?" Us. You're here almost every day. You help with Lily, with my career, with everything. Are we just friends, or—" Richard took her hand. "I think we both know we're more than friends. I've had feelings for you for months, but I didn't want to complicate your life when so much was changing." "And now?" Emma asked softly. "Now I'm tired of pretending I don't want to be with you." Richard moved closer. "But only if you feel the same way." Emma's answer was to lean forward and kiss him gently. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "I've wanted to do that for a long time," Emma admitted. "Me too," Richard said, "but I wasn't sure if you were ready with everything happening in your career and with Jake." "I've been ready," Emma said. "I was just afraid to risk our friendship if you didn't feel the same way." The weeks leading up to the Hollywood Bowl concert were intense. Emma balanced rehearsals with caring for Lily and finalizing her 2 new songs. Richard supported her through it all, often taking Lily to his house so Emma could focus on her music. 3 days before the concert, Jake Miller appeared at Emma's door unannounced. "I want to see my daughter," he demanded when Emma answered. Emma blocked the doorway. "You can't just show up like this. All communication goes through our lawyers now." "Come on, Emma, we don't need lawyers. We used to love each other." Jake tried to look past her into the house. "Is that her? Let me see her." "No, Jake. Those are the rules." Richard appeared behind Emma, holding Lily. Jake's expression hardened. "So that's what this is about? You've got yourself a rich boyfriend now?" Jake sneered. "Is that why you won't let me see my kid?" "You need to leave," Richard said calmly, "before we call the police." After Jake left, Emma collapsed onto the couch. What if he shows up at the concert? What if he tries to take Lily? "He won't," Richard assured her. "I've hired security for the event and Margaret will be with Lily the entire time in a private area backstage." On the day of the concert, Emma stood in her dressing room at the Hollywood Bowl, trying to calm her nerves. Through the window, she could see thousands of people filling the iconic venue. "I can't do this," she told her reflection. "There are too many people." A knock on the door interrupted her panic. Richard entered with Lily in his arms. "Someone wanted to wish Mommy good luck," he said. Emma took Lily, breathing in her baby scent. "I'm scared, Richard. What if I freeze out there?" "You won't," he said confidently. "You were born to do this. Just sing like you're in your living room, sharing your heart with people who want to listen." "When did you become so wise about performing?" Emma asked with a small smile. "I've learned a lot from watching you these past months," Richard replied, "about courage and following your passion." He took her hand. "I have something to tell you. The foundation, the Lilly Foundation, just approved its first 10 grants. Single parents pursuing careers in music, art, and writing. Your story inspired all of it." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Really? 10 families will get help? And many more in the future," Richard promised. "Your journey is helping others now." A production assistant knocked on the door. "5 minutes, Ms. Wilson." Margaret arrived to take Lily. "We'll be watching from the wings," she assured Emma. "You'll be wonderful." Left alone with Richard, Emma took a deep breath. "Thank you for believing in me from the beginning, even when I was just your maid." "You were never just anything," Richard said. "You were always extraordinary. I just happened to notice." He kissed her gently. "Now go show everyone else what I already know." Standing in the darkness backstage, Emma heard the announcer's voice boom across the Hollywood Bowl. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emma Wilson." As she walked onto the stage, the spotlight found her, and applause erupted from thousands of people. Emma stood frozen for a moment, overwhelmed by the size of the crowd. Then she spotted Richard in the front row, Lily now on his shoulders, both of them beaming up at her. Margaret, Antonio, and Michael sat beside them, all smiling encouragingly. Emma stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "A year ago, I was cleaning houses and pregnant with my daughter, wondering how I'd pay rent. Life can change in ways you never expect." She sang through her set list, gaining confidence with each song. The audience responded enthusiastically, many singing along to "Rise from the Ashes," which had become her signature hit. Between songs, Emma shared parts of her story, her dreams of a music career in Nashville, becoming a single mother, and the wedding that changed everything. "I almost didn't sing that night," she told the audience. "I was terrified of being judged, of being seen as less than because I was pregnant and working as a maid." For her final song, Emma returned to "Rise from the Ashes." Before beginning, she looked out at the thousands of faces watching her. "I want to dedicate this song to anyone who was ever told they didn't belong on stage, whatever stage that might be in your life. Your voice matters, your dreams matter, and sometimes the worst moments can lead to the best beginnings." As Emma sang the final notes, the entire Hollywood Bowl rose in a standing ovation. She bowed, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by the journey that had brought her here. From the front row, Richard lifted Lily higher on his shoulders, pointing up at Emma so the baby could see her mother shining on stage. His heart filled with pride and love for the woman who had entered his life as an employee, but had become so much more, a partner, an inspiration, and the missing piece of his family. After the show, as fans dispersed and the stage crew began breaking down equipment, Richard approached Emma backstage with Lily asleep in his arms. "You were incredible," he said softly, careful not to wake the baby. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," Emma replied. Richard shook his head. "You would have found your way eventually. Your talent is too great to stay hidden." He looked down at Lily, then back at Emma. "I realized something tonight watching you shine. Some people come into our lives as employees, some as employers, but the lucky ones find something neither of them was looking for, a perfect harmony." Emma smiled through her tears and leaned forward to kiss him, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, Jake's custody claims, the pressures of fame, balancing motherhood with her career, she would face them with strength, with music, and with the family she had found when she least expected it. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.